what's up everybody? Welcome back to another episode of NerdKO. We're up on episode 7. I'm Josh.
And I'm Muzz.
And we got a lot of cool stuff to talk to you about today. And for starters, we're going to kick it off with the most underrated sci-fi flicks.
Then we're going to talk about our favorite video games where you get to play the bad guy.
Yep, and after that, we're going to wrap the whole thing up by talking about movies that ruined their video game counterparts.
Yeah, a lot of those out there.
Definitely.
So, let's get started.
Yep.
I cannot believe you thought that was a good movie.
It was absolutely
sweet.
It was
dude.
garbage. Oh my god.
What's wrong with you?
This is just crazy.
The special effects were great. The acting was great. The story was great.
So was the movie good?
It was awesome, dude. Come on. What wasn't great about that movie, dude? You're freaking crazy.
It's great if you like one-dimensional, pointy-eared characters.
Oh my god!
Alright, so these are sci-fi movies that we feel were totally underrated films. And I'm going to start mine off with Starship Troopers. And I know what you're thinking, Starship Troopers, that's like Star Trek 90210. But you know what? It's a really awesome movie. And I know, okay, great, it's not exactly like the book was, okay, fine. But how many movies are as good as the book anyway? When you take Starship Troopers as a standalone film, it was actually just a lot of fun to watch. A lot of great people in the movie. I mean, Denise Richards was looking amazing. Amy Smart had a little cameo in there. If you didn't notice her in there, she's looking awesome. Clancy Brown, awesome. He was the bad guy in Highlander. He's in there. Just everyone in there. Casper Van Dien is actually probably doing the best acting of his career, which sure isn't saying much, but it's still a lot of fun to watch. Jake Busey is awesome in it. Just all in all, it was a really fun movie. And if, I don't know, if you just want to sit down and have a mindless adventure with cool enemies, that's the one to watch. Did it ever make more money than its production budget? Absolutely not. But it was still a lot of fun, and I think totally worth watching. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. So next up is a movie that I didn't even expect to like, and I watched it, and it blew my mind, and it's called Equilibrium. Equilibrium is a movie that stars Christian Bale. If you haven't seen it, you definitely need to check it out. This was the movie that I watched right before we found out he was going to become Batman. And I watched this movie, and then when people said, oh, Christian Bale's going to be Batman, I was like, yeah, he can do it, because I saw Equilibrium. And that's how good the movie is. That's the type of action you get out of this film. Just phenomenal fight choreography, just a great story. It's kind of like Fahrenheit 451 meets George Orwell's 1984. So in this society, there's grammaton clerics, and the clerics are these guys who go around eradicating anything that evokes an emotional response or any person who is being emotional. And there are really clever things done with the filters, with the filming, where you'll actually see a change in a person when they're feeling versus a person who is not. The people who are not feeling are actually taking their dose, and it's a drug that they take every day to keep them from feeling. And it's just this really cool movie, and when you see these fight scenes, it's fantastic. They do gun katas, which are basically martial arts with pistols, and just phenomenal. And then the most amazing thing, Taye Diggs is actually good in this movie. So I mean, come on, you gotta check it out. Equilibrium, you can't miss it.
Okay, my first pick is Lockout. It stars Guy Pearce from Memento, which is another great movie you should check out on another day, and Maggie Grace from the Taken movies and the Lost series, which I'm sure you've seen. It takes place in the future, and Guy Pearce is framed for committing espionage against the U.S. and murder. They sentence him to cryogenic stasis on a prison, and what happens is the president's daughter is aboard this prison. She is interviewing prisoners to try to bring the prison down almost. One of the prisoners gets a hold of a weapon and overturns the prison wards and all that. So they realize their best chance to get the president's daughter out is to send Guy Pearce up there, and they offer him a deal in exchange for his freedom. And so Guy Pearce has to go on this impossible mission, take on all these prisoners, and get the president's daughter out alive. It's really funny, actually. I think you'll like it. There's great action, and we have a little rule around here. If Luc Besson is involved in any movie, we have to watch it. Which Luc Besson wrote the screenplay for this, and I can almost guarantee you that you'll love it. Okay, so my second pick is going to be Serenity. Serenity was written and directed by Joss Whedon, which you may know from the Avengers. So personally, I think anything Joss Whedon touches is gold. If you're a fan of sci-fi, then you will definitely love Serenity. But I recommend that you check out Firefly first so you're not completely lost. They, in the show, they actually come across a doctor who is breaking his sister out, who's been tortured and experimented on by the government. She's a psychic and some sort of whiz girl, you know, she's real smart. They come across Nathan Fillion's ship and, you know, they earn their spot on the ship. And it's terribly tragic that we live in a world that Star Wars Episode 3 outsold this movie. The quality is so much better and you'll really enjoy that. The action's great, great sci-fi. There's kind of a Western theme to it too. And to learn any more, you're really gonna have to check the series Firefly out so you can understand everything. And I really can't give you any more information because it'll spoil the entire movie for you.
Alright, my first pick is going to be Paul W.S. Anderson's Event Horizon. Now this was actually not just a great sci-fi flick, but also a really good horror flick as well, and it came out around 1997. The basic premise was there's a team that has been dispatched to check on an experimental new spacecraft that can kind of tear holes in the fabric of space so it can kind of jump from point A to point B instantaneously. Rather than traveling from point A over here to point B through a straight line, it folds those 2 points together, the ship passes through, and it can basically instantly travel anywhere in the universe. The problem they find out very rapidly is that this ship has traveled someplace it absolutely should not have and no human being should ever have to see. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but you can kind of probably guess where that is. And a lot of horrible things start happening on the ship whenever they go to investigate it. It's a pretty solid ride from beginning to end, and it starred Lawrence Fishburne and a handful of other actors that give a really strong performance, and it is totally worth checking out, even today. My next pick for the most underrated sci-fi flick would be Cube. Cube was actually a really low-budget sci-fi flick that was released around the same time as Event Horizon was, I think. It might have been early 2000s, come to think of it. But the basic premise of Cube was a number of strangers wake up and they are in an aptly named Cube. Basically, they're in a series of rooms that are constantly cube-shaped. They have no idea why they're there. They don't know, you know, who each other are, really. They're complete strangers to each other. But each room may or may not be booby-trapped with untold horrors. So basically, you have a very tense, very unnerving science fiction and horror experience again. And, you know, these strangers having to figure out whether to work together or whether they should, you know, even trust each other at all based on why they're there in the first place, trying to just survive this horrific thing that they're placed in, and they have no idea why they're there. And that kind of intrigue and mystery is what makes it a really fun thing to watch all the way through, and that's another one that you should totally check out because it is absolutely underrated in my book. Alright, next up, let's talk about the best video games where you get to play as the bad guy. Because, you know, being the good guy just gets kind of old sometimes, and it's time to embrace the evil a little bit.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
So?
I'll start off with, I think, one of everyone's favorites, and I'm going game by game on this one, not specifically a series, because I don't think every Grand Theft Auto game had a great bad guy. I think Grand Theft Auto Vice City had a phenomenal bad guy.
Yeah.
Tommy Vercetti was awesome. I love the whole Italian mafia 1980s scene.
Oh, and the soundtrack was incredible.
Oh, it was phenomenal.
It was a great bag because if you love Scarface.
Right, right. And everyone, you know, every character in the game has that Don Johnson thing going on, you know. I mean, it's just so good. And Vercetti was just a great character. Like, of all the Grand Theft Auto games so far, Vice City is my favorite. And I'm talking over 4, I'm talking over San Andreas. Those games never captured me.
Right.
Like Vice City didn't, like Tommy Vercetti did. And I don't know if it was Ray Liotta. I don't know if it was the writing. Maybe it was just a package deal, the whole game, everything together. But I felt like a badass when I was carjacking someone with Tommy Vercetti and doing my thing. Totally. It was just so fun, and he was such a great, just sarcastic and awesome character. So for me, Tommy Vercetti, one of the best bad guys I ever played in.
Oh yeah, yeah. And Ray Liotta, yeah, he killed it doing the voice work for it, and it sounded like he had a lot of fun doing it too. For me, coupled with the soundtrack for that, and the fact that I think now it's available on iOS and for Android for like $2 or $3. A 10-year-old game that, you know, it used to cost us $50 to play. Now you can play the whole thing on your phone. Right. It's just crazy. Okay. I will say for mine, now it's not always easy to craft a good anti-hero, but there are certain elements that make them so lovable. But the thing that I really like about this particular game is you kind of get to craft your own anti-hero, and that would be the Fable series. Fable 1, 2, or 3, all really good games. Peter Molyneux kind of has had a tendency to oversell the game, though, in terms of what would be possible. But I always appreciated his kind of passion for, you know, giving players choice and having consequences for those choices. In particular, I usually play on the up and up and play the good guy in Fable, but on occasion, I wavered into bad guy territory, and I'm sorry to say, like, I actually dragged my wife into the middle of town and killed her in front of horrified onlookers because she told me I should not raise the taxes on the denizens of my city, so, you know, whatever. That was easily one of my favorite bad guy experiences.
And the great thing about that is you have the choice.
Yeah.
You can be a good guy. You can play as a good guy if you want, or you can be just barbaric and awful.
Oh, yeah. If you want a stable of concubines, go for it. You know, the world is your oyster.
Yeah. And not many games give you that choice. I really can't think of another one that just gives you that option to truly be a bad guy.
Yeah. Oh, and have it reflected physically, too. It's cool that your appearance would change as you became more evil. Yeah. So, I don't know. What's your next one?
Oh. Okay, so most people probably wouldn't typically look at this character as a bad guy. Mm-hmm. But technically, he is a criminal. What he does is illegal. He is a murderer. He is Agent 47, the hitman.
Right.
And everyone knows he's one of my favorites. Anyone who knows me at least knows. He's one of my absolute favorites.
Oh, yeah.
I think every one of the Hitman games has been brilliant. Mm-hmm. And recently I played Absolution and just absolutely adored it. It was a phenomenal game, and I just love playing as a hitman. You know?
Oh yeah, and I think one of the things that made those games so good or made it so enjoyable to be the bad guy is the level of precision with which you can operate.
Right.
I mean, there are so many different ways, and it's not linear by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah. And his very professional, very imposing persona just makes you feel like a total badass every time you pop that.
Well, and you know, there's something to be said about the different ways you can kill in these games. Like, you can walk in blazing, just guns blazing, kill everyone in the room if you want, and if you can do it, if you're good enough to do it.
Right.
Or you can hunt around that level and you can find that plate of food that you poison, or you can find that, you know, that one instrument you're going to use to kill them, and it offers this replayability of the game and your options in dispatching your foes. That just is unlike any other game. I absolutely love that, and it makes you feel like a badass while you're doing it. You know, like I play it over and over to see just how cool I can be killing people.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about you?
Well, kind of playing off yours, especially like sneaking around and all that, and especially being, you know, just a very bad guy. I'll actually just go back to Manhunt. I mentioned Manhunt, I think, when we did Bargain Bin Gems, because it's a really fun, it's a fairly cheap game now. Like, you know, the basic premise of that was you're a criminal who's condemned to death row. So immediately you're already a bad guy right off the bat, and almost nobody, I don't even think there's any redemption there, but don't quote me on that. And then basically you have nothing at your disposal except for your kind of cunning and wit, so you sneak around in the shadows and kill these gangs that have been released to kill you for some madman's idea of filming a citywide snuff film. First of all, a plot so ridiculous, it can only really be in a video game. It's the perfect nothing to lose scenario almost. Like, you're on death row anyways, might as well take down as many as you can. So, yeah, that's all we've got.
Now, if you have a game where you like playing as the bad guy, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think. What's your favorite villain role in a video game? I'm interested in hearing. Alright, so now we're going to talk about movies that ruined their video game counterparts. These are movies that were based on video games and were absolutely terrible.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing. Is like, you know, it's no real, you know, it's not a leap for anybody to say that, you know, there are a lot of bad video game movies out there, but there are some that are just so horrendous that actually take something away from the original experience that spawned it. So what's your first pick?
Whew. I'm going to jump right off with Resident Evil. And, you know, I know there are a lot of people who defend these movies, but when you do a movie based on a game and the main character isn't even in the game, I think there's a problem.
Yeah,
that really bothers me. And I accepted the first one as maybe a side story, but in the second one, when they started introducing all the nemesis and all the characters, and then the third one was bad by any movie standard, not just a video game movie standard. It was just bad. Then the fourth one, they forgot the whole Earth is dried up plot line they had going, the Mad Max thing they had going on in the third one, and the Earth was green again. I mean, just there's no consistency throughout the movies, and they do everything they can to crap on the source material. Paul W.S. Anderson, I think it's among his worst work, even worse than AVP, and just it's despicable.
See, I made a few concessions for the first one only because I watched all of the behind-the-scenes stuff for the first Resident Evil, because I wanted to see kind of like what you said, what justifies this choice of including a character who hasn't even been established in canon from the games.
Right.
And for me, you know, the thing that kind of would be like, okay, I'll give them a pass, was that they just seemed so passionate about it. Like the interview with Manson about how the music was designed and everything. I was like, okay, it's kind of cool. They put some thought into it, but ultimately, yeah, it just kept going downhill.
And even I did that. The first one, at the end, I said, okay, well, it's a side story.
Right.
It's good. But after that, there was just no forgiving any of it.
Yep.
What's yours?
Okay, mine, I'm actually going to lead off with, it's actually a very touching story and emotionally crippling for me in a way because it kind of hit me during my developing years. I think I was 8 or 9 years old when the Mario Brothers movie came out, starring Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo as Mario and Luigi Mario. And anybody who saw the Mario Brothers movie knows what a just horrendous piece of crap this whole movie was. It was awful. Yoshi was a raptor extra from Jurassic Park. It was abysmal. And it was the first movie. It was so soul-crushingly bad that a young Josh came out of theater. I remember my dad being like, "Buddy, how was it? How was your movie?" And I was like, it wasn't good. Because it was the first time it ever occurred to me that a movie could be bad. Because up until that point, any horror movie, like Three Ninjas, I don't care what it was awesome. And then Mario Brothers just crushed it for me. So,
yeah. I want to jump in and say something about it, but there's just nothing I can add.
Oh, yeah.
You've covered it all, and it's just such... It has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. There's nothing good about that movie at all.
No. The only light chuckle point I will give it is a really funny interview I saw with Dennis Hopper about it, where apparently his son asked him, like, Dad, like, why did you play Bowser? And he was like, I did that movie so you could have shoes. And this kid was like, I didn't need shoes that bad. Like, apparently even he knew that was just a horror movie. So yeah, Mario Brothers, easy.
Yeah.
What about you, man? What's up next?
Oh. My next one then is Blood Rain.
Okay.
And Blood Rain is just so horrible. And the first one, and this is the whole series I'm talking about. I'm not just talking about one or the other. At first I watched it, and as I watched it, I thought, okay, this is a prequel.
Right.
But the movie was still unwatchably bad. It had, like Mario, it had no redeeming qualities. And then you get into the second movie, which is the worst of the three. The third one, at least, they brought it a little further into the future, had the timeline right and everything, but it was still just an awful, awful film.
Right.
But the second one in particular, The Wild West, a vampire Billy the Kid.
Yeah.
She teams up with a vampire hunting Pat Garrett to hunt down Billy the Kid. In the topper is, and I'm doing a spoiler. I've done this in.
Oh, don't spoil it.
Oh no, I'm doing it. In prior episodes I've done this, but they at the very end they talk about, oh, I hear there's these vampires down at the OK Corral. So they're and I'm just like really
word on the street is.
Really, it's just bad. And I mean, in what was it, the last episode, I defended Uwe Boll.
Right.
When I talked about Netflix picks.
Yes, he did a few movies that actually weren't so
Rampage
bad.
and those, and anything he does that's not video game related is all right.
Right.
I mean, no, I wouldn't say anything, but there are
they're approaching watchability.
well, there are a few really decent films, but the Blood Rain movies are just an example of how bad Uwe Boll can actually get.
Right.
They're among, I think, the worst movies he's done, and just totally unwatchable.
Yeah.
Just awful video game movies.
Right on.
So what do you got?
My last one, I will say, I feel like I've been on a real horror kick through this whole episode, but I'm going to go ahead and say Silent Hill Revelation 3D. First off, I love the Silent Hill series. I've been a huge fan of it ever since I played the first one. A friend made me play it. 2 is, in my opinion, one of the best narratives available in gaming, actually. So to kind of see elements of 2 kind of bastardized is really just incredibly disappointing. If you want to see one of the most iconic video game villains, Pyramid Head, relegated to what is essentially a slap fight at the end of the flick, you should go ahead and check this out. If you have a shred of dignity though, or any respect for the movie or the game series at all, you won't go see it.
Right.
It's horrible. So that's all we got. Let us know what your horrible video game movies are and what kind of crushed your spirit cross medium. Yeah.
Alright, so thanks for watching this episode of NerdKO. We hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for our next episode where we talk about some of our favorite iconic racing games.
Yep, and as always, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. That's youtube.com/geekspodcast for me and youtube.com/L1games for Muzz. So, thanks so much for watching.
That's it. So, how do you want to close this one out?
Actually, I was thinking, oh my god, oh! Nerd pitch that, you fucking nerd!
I'm like, Luc Besson!
Luc Besson!
Luc Besson!
Ooh, nerd pitch that, you fucking nerd! Sleazy, like you're gonna nerd pitch me.
Oh.
I forgot about it.
These are movies that were based on video games that were just absolutely terrible. I thought you were going to jump in.
Alright, do it again.
You had that look on your face.
I will.
God!
I believe in you. Who's it? In addition to being a really great sci-fi film, is also God! Why do you do it to me? I thought I had it. I was like, no, I got it. They can.
Okay,
All right.
we won't do it.